Thokozani Bantabatala, Kamalami Ukokonomi. Today I am actually interviewing Ukoko Bruja Thembi, and I'm actually so excited to be having her. Just to give you guys a bit of background, she's not from Joburg, right? So I was so lucky to be able to get her, and I thought, this would be such an amazing time just for me to sit, catch up with her, but also discuss a little bit of her journey. So I'd like to say hello, Coco. Thokoza, Coco.
Thokozani.
I think, Coco, first things first, if you could just give us like a brief description of who Coco Bruja is, where she's from, and contextually, like, how has Gogo become a Coco Bruja?
Yeah, interesting question. I have to actually breathe first before responding because there's so much to say and you want to squeeze in his name in like a small space. But so Bruja is a Spanish term for a practitioner. A Bruja is a female practitioner like Ukoko.
Yes.
And then Brujo is a masculine practitioner like Mkhulu.
Wow.
So the reason why the term is because I understood that ngihlambulule noma ngichache amandla wami in alternative ways.
Yes.
Where I was getting the guidance from alternative spaces. So therefore it was my way of acknowledging that. To say that I honored those guides that were not completely or fully African,
yes,
but they are still doing the work. So who we are, we basically do this work because we come from a background where resources were a bit of an issue. So lendaba le ukuthi uzothola inkomo and you're gonna go into the process, it was a difficult thing for me. So I had to find alternative ways of ukulapha abantu abadala noma ukulungisa umoya, right? And I don't know if that explains the question.
Yeah, I think what else I want to know, because I mean, you're explaining the process of Bashambulula and doing the work, but for me, I'm also interested in like, how did you then know that you were gifted? And also maybe tell us, Uguti, how did you know that alternative methods were even a thing for you? Like, because a lot of us know that we're gifted, but suddenly we know this one route, right, that we have to undertake. And I just want to know how you knew you even had the option to take a new route.
Yo, Coco, I was suffering. Like, I was suffering in so many different ways. And I guess the gifting thing always had a way of popping up.
Yes.
Because I feel like abantu abadala, they prepare you. They keep telling you, and there's always someone somewhere telling you, giving the information. And it was only in, I think it was 2011. What am I saying?
It is 11. After a lot of episodes happen, it becomes 11.
So 2011, that was when I decided to get up and do something about it, because things were not going. Things just kept going downhill, right? And I was scared because I come from a Christian background. So there is an element of African spirituality that Ukoko wam was afraid of.
Yes.
She was not open to any of that. She was just like, you're going to get lost in this noise. You don't even know. To a point where even as you start off with the work, you are considered satanic because people are like, we don't know this thing.
Oh my gosh.
And what is this thing? And it scares them even more if the work in itself is effective. So now they are scared because they're like, if this does not come from the God we know, then we don't know what this thing is. So it was so difficult. And the support system or the support structure wasn't there for me to say, and I'll come out safely. And I think that wasn't what abantu abadala wanted at that point in time. So
that is crazy. So tell me, like, what are some of the downhill moments? Like, is it like episodes? Are you getting sick? Or is it just like your general life not coming together?
I was sick, I think my second year in varsity. I was very sick, like so sick that I remember the campus counselor at the time was like, listen, in order for you to retain your funding, because I studied in Yanasfasi as well, in order for you to retain your funding and stuff, you have to go and do the 72 hours observation thing. so that you can get the assistance you need, and then you basically have this letter and you can continue. And that's when I got the assistance I needed. I got there, I was diagnosed with all these things, all
Yeah.
these mental things. There was bipolar, different types of it, type whatever. There was this one psychologist was like, no, there's also schizophrenia in there.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
multiple personality disorders, and of which I understood, because I've
Yes.
always been the weird child.
Yes.
I've always been odd my entire life. Abantwana bayadlala, mina I'm there with the trees. I'm communicating. Other children babapala skipping. I'm in my room. I'm locked up. So I always knew it, but this was the first time that it was coming across as ingulo, or something that was not right. So that was when I got pulled out of the studying situation. I went home, and this was me trying to figure things out, trying to get everything together. And what was the other part of the question? How did you know that?
Yeah, this whole thing, how did it come about for you, nempilo yakho? And I think even the schizophrenia one scared me a bit, because it's like, yo, did you get like any medication?
Yes, I was on lithium. They put me on lithium and a bunch of other things, and I guess it goes back to that thing of understanding what a chemical imbalance is, right?
Yes.
That if there's a chemical imbalance in your brain, sometimes it reflects as a chemical imbalance in your body. And yes, we are often told that healers shouldn't be attending to medical stuff or mental health stuff or anything that we are not, I guess, accredited to attend to. But for me personally, this was something I had first-hand experience of, meaning that if angulanga ngaleya ndlela leya, I would have never known that I can actually balance myself out or heal myself out, or because those are the exact things that taught me how to do the work with other people. And it is so simple that a person can actually say, this is way too easy, it can't be this easy. Ganti, the only, I guess, affirmation you have as a human being was, this is how I balanced out my own imbalance.
Yes, that's so true. Oh my gosh, that is so scary. So you are like the first person who's like even spoken to schizophrenia. For me, I know a lot about like people having mental illnesses, maybe like bipolar, but I had never thought, Guti, medically, I've never met a physical healer. I know Guti ingulo yenhlanya iba khona as part of what you get sometimes, but I'm just like, that level of extreme, how did you even like begin to come out of that and make a decision? Because that is scary.
To be honest with you, Coco, I've been in denial from the moment, like, because when I received that, in my mind I'm thinking, you guys I've already been diagnosed. Are you just trying to scare me? Are you this? And when you look into it yourself, you're thinking maybe there's a misdiagnosis somewhere.
Yes.
And my entire family knew that, look, she is crazy, but it was never seen in the medical sense, or in the medical, like, it was never a properly diagnosed thing. But to be honest with you, Kokwamine, I don't think it's there.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds like I'm being in denial, but because I never accepted that, and it's crazy to be saying stuff like this on a podcast where people are going to hear and listen, but because I've rejected it for so long, that it has never really been a factor. Somewhere along the way, there's always been this communication that we are making Lendu Yako as hard as it is right now, because this is the only way you're gonna listen.
Yes.
This is the only way you're gonna listen.
Let's talk about that though. Like, what has your experience of your guides been in terms of like, do you feel that they're hard people? Do you feel that they're soft people? I always ask these questions because I always say, like, we all have different experiences with our guides, and do you feel that their methods were effective?
I would say they were, because ngiyazazi mina I'm stubborn, and because I'm a stubborn person, there is a way. I'll make an example. Coming out of, because I spent so much time, I lived like for a while in Yeoville, right? And while I was doing the whole Yeoville thing, I was pushing this retail job and whatnot. I didn't want to live outside of the comfortable spaces. Now, if I had been given everything that I wanted, like I got in, did my accounting, did my everything, got comfortable, there was no way in hell that I was going to turn around and take care of izinto zomoya. But because they had literally closed all of those doors down, and I literally was not landing any work anywhere.
That is scary.
Anywhere, and I can't even tell you how I was even surviving because things were so tough. And if they had not, so I do think there are times where they are gentle, but when they have to be firm, they are firm. For example, I usually tell Abantu that sometimes it is a blessing in disguise, because if I had gone down the process that I had wanted to initially, saying Yangena, and I get taught, and maybe, let me make it a card thing. Someone teaches me how to right? Someone teaches me how to read tarot. I would be reading tarot the way I was taught and trained to read it.
Yes.
Now, because the support system was there and I didn't have that access, I didn't have those resources, I had to learn it myself. That actually affected the quality of the work.
Yes.
So some things are a blessing in disguise. They are gentle when they need to, but they can also be firm.
And how did you decide, like, Uguti, okay, now this is like tarot that I'm doing, or did you have numerous methods you were looking into? Like, how did you just wake up and decide this?
So, this is going to be very crazy, but I came out of COVID a tarot reader. I went in there, I was not a tarot reader. I came out as a COVID reader, tarot reader. So here I am. The space I'm staying in, the flat is being sold. The flat is going, and my life is not together. And I've been applying for a good year, sending everything out. I'm not landing anything. Okay, what are we gonna do with this? They started off with the 21 days, and then it turned into something bigger. And then I'm thinking, what is it that I want to do with that time? I've always wanted to study this craft. I've always been called to it. And I don't know what's going on. And I'll show you my actual deck. It's a deck that we've created ourselves with regular playing cards. So they would literally show you those aces, those spades, those these, and you're not really understanding. But I was like, I want to learn this thing because it gravitates. I gravitate to it. And at that time, I'm going through so much hell. I'm going through so much hell. Especially because even at that time, there was a child in my life that I couldn't have. And things were... So this was my way of... This is the remedial that I actually need, because I can't get it in any other way. So I'm like, okay, I'm studying. I learned this thing. I connected with it. Things started clicking. And immediately when you've learned something new, you can't wait to show everybody around. So everyone I know, do you want a reading? Do you want a reading? Do you want a reading? I'll go on Facebook. Who wants a reading?
Oh my gosh.
Some people obviously would be annoyed with it, because it's like, we are supposed to come to you. You are coming to us and this and that. But other people embraced
open to it.
And that's how we started. And we were just offering all these free readings everywhere. And the feedback was nice, and it was coming in, and people were getting assistance. And then we carried on with it. I think that I've always wanted to find a divination tool, because I saw it as the only way in which I was going to activate certain intuitive faculties without assistance. And I was like, if this thingy corner, I need to be able to grow it. I need to be able to exercise it. And I didn't go into the learning of the tool in order to profit off of it, or in order to work with it. I went into it wanting to amplify what I already have. And I was like, I know I can get to a point where my clairvoyance is able to
peak, maybe. Sure, that's so interesting. And then as you are doing this, is there ever a time where Abokoko come and acknowledge, or is it just like I ngizobona phambili and somehow, somewhere I'll actually figure out that they're happy with this?
Crazy. They were, I think the acknowledgement came after. The acknowledgement came after, because it was only when I actually went home. I am Samo, and I was like, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, this is how I am working with Umayawami and how to move things forward. When you guys are ready and you guys are going to give me Indlela, I'm going to take it. But in the meantime, this is what I'm doing, because there's literally nothing else. And that was when they started coming forward, because sometimes abantu abadala, they need to be respected.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't want to come forward unless you are actually willing to. It's like umzali wakho ngeke akugijimise everywhere, say what you're doing, and they're gonna wait for you to come and say, ma, this is what's happening, let's talk, let's do this. After that, that's when everything started opening up. Like, people were coming that didn't even know me. Like, there was this one woman from New Zealand. I didn't even know where she found my contact details. She was just like, listen, I just saw some Instagram posts, I actually want this, let's do it. And that's when things really, really opened up. So I, for one, took that as an acknowledgement, because I'm one of the people that struggle.
Same here.
I can with somebody else's, and then you're listening and you're like, okay, here's what's coming out to me, and here's what is being said based on what I'm feeling and what is coming down to me. But I have no idea what's going on.
No,
they will show me everything. They will tell me everything. We'll have proper conversations. And then a week later they'll come back and say, remember? And then you're like, I remember. So
that is hectic. That is so hectic. Like, I think obviously I'm dumbfounded by the whole thing, because I don't know, but I talk about this a lot, that I felt very slow on the spiritual journey. So, like, I've always been a person who, like, it was just hard for me to grasp a lot of the concepts. It was hard for me, even like bone reading. I remember at some point I set my Kobela down and I'm like, dude, you know, Guti, I was smart at school, right? But I can't crack these bones. Like, I actually cannot understand what is happening here. And I'm just, I don't get it, you know? And so for me, it's like the fact that you could sort of teach yourself how to do this thing, and then you find out, Guti, this thing is true, is like, it's mind-boggling for me, you know? And I just want to know, so, okay, since you've done this thing now, what has it been? Has it been like, now I consult all the time? Or is it like, at some point they are saying, oh no, you can't go back to the working world that you want? Do you even want to go back there?
I don't. Like, going back to this thing of, I get to when we say communication is not the same, and it's not always going to come in through, you know, the dreams. And for me, a lot of the communication comes in through the body, like the sensations. If something feels good, I know they're in agreement. If something feels off, I know they're in disagreement. So this entire time as I'm doing this thing, I'm following the enjoyment of, I really gravitate to this thing. I've always had a grasp of esoteric concepts and this and that and that. I was drawn to it. So I was trusting that, right? And then the thing of, what was the second part? What's the other thing?
It was like, if you even want to do this forever, or if you want to go into like your full like career that you had planned for yourself.
Okay, because I feel like I was a little out. I never had, remember I dropped out of varsity because I was all sick and stuff. So all of those things that I wanted to do in the fields I wanted to get into, I don't even qualify to do that. They make sure that you're not going there.
Oh my
okay
gosh.
And then came out, was like, okay, I'm gonna build my stuff up and do this retail work, which was terrible. And then I was putting my creative energy into other spaces. Like this creative energy was going into music. I was writing. I've always been writing. And those are the things that I was doing. But things were not opening up to me because Isintozami were not aligned. Like, I would do really amazing creative work, but it wouldn't see the light of day.
That's crazy.
It literally wouldn't see the light of day. To a point where after I started attending to Izinto Zamoya and I'd gone back home and I'd connected and I'm, you know, doing this and that, people were now calling to say, hey, really powerful people in those spaces were like, hey, we've heard this and that and that. Do you want to do this and that and that? But you're no longer in that space. So, Gogo, to be honest with you, I feel like I found me. I feel like I found me, and I have no desire to desert her and go back to any idea of success that I had before then, because I'm fortunate enough to be able to live off of this. Like, there are some people that find it nuts that all you do are readings.
Yeah.
and you are surviving and you're doing well.
Let's talk to that, because for me, so that's been my biggest thing, right? That's the one thing that I've always run away from. I've always run away from being like a full-time healer. But my reasoning behind it is not the survival. I know that my guides would sustain me. It's more the emotional aspect and the energy that it takes off of me as a person. So contextually, I get really, really sick before I see clients. And usually it's like if someone has a migraine, I'll have the full-on experience that they had last night up to the time that they see me. Maupetwe isisu, like, I mean, I will have all the symptoms. So if you were having a baby, you know, and because it's so draining for me, that's like my greatest fear. My greatest fear is if I have to do this every single day and be in pain like this every single day, am I gonna survive, and I want to know about that, Tuguti. How do you cope then? How do you balance out so that you don't have this work almost draining you as a person?
Gogo, I'm gonna be very honest with me. It drains me every day, all day, every day. I think I've gotten to a point where I've become so used to it that it is no longer. There is one woman. She also uhlola ngamakhadi naye, and she's like, "I Gogo, you know what? Mina, I'm done. I just do two readings a day. That's as far as I can go. I'm not trying to step into anyone's energy, or like I'm not trying to do lego, right? And I understand it, but if you come from, like, because I feel like my background was so tough,
Yes.
and it was so hard, and it was so painful, that this strain or this carrying of other people that you're doing is a better pain
Shucks.
to the other pain.
Yeah, I get it.
So I think because of where I come from and where this thing comes from, it maybe if things were different, and if I had that option of, hey, I can just step into my accounting stuffs, and I can do this over the weekends, I probably would.
Yes.
I probably would, but I think, I don't know, like it just doesn't fit that mold.
Yeah.
Like, and the intensity of sickness, especially if it's a mental thing,
Yes.
you are tapping into these other realms, you're getting all of this information, you're getting all these things. So even all of these diagnoses that I was receiving, you definitely, there is something irregular about someone who's tapping in and tapping out and going into these other spaces, coming back. And because in our personal capacity that is not regular, so it must be sickness.
Yes.
But there is another side to it.
Yes.
I won't lie. When I'm not doing these things, I'm actually not okay.
I know. So that is the only element that I understand. So on a mental level, I've never really had like the deep mental issues, So I've generally always just been balanced. That's just me. So most people would say, oh my gosh, you're so zen. That's me, right? But what I would notice is like I would take breaks, maybe over December or something. And then I don't see clients and I would feel low. So like I would actually go to the doctor and get a vitamin B injection because I feel low, and it's crazy because I'm only realizing it now when I have the conversation. Those are the periods when I would feel low, when I'm not seeing people as much as I should be seeing. Then my mood doesn't go up like ngathi ngiyahlanya. It goes down like ngathi ngiyashota. And I think for me that's when it became increasingly important to once in a while then I make sure weekly I see maybe up to 15 people, up to 12 people, up to 20 people, but on a general like day to day, if I'm honest, I don't know if I'd cope, but it's because of the intensity. So for me it's like I've started already having these conversations with myself to say, I mean, you enjoy the work, you really love it, you're passionate about it, you should leave corporate. But for me, corporate is more like an escape, if I
And
could
a
say,
safety net too.
you know. And also a place where I feel like I can zone out completely, because when I'm at work I don't get any of the sensations and whatever. But as soon as I step out of work, even my burps, guys, they go literally from 0 to 100 as soon as I step out of the building. So it's like over the years, the conditioning from my guides, you know. But what is also coming to me as we're sitting here is like, I know maybe this is a bit of a weird question, but do you then think that all your life has been strengthening you for this phase of your life? Like the fact that you went through so much hardship and stuff, do you think that was intentional from your guides, maybe, so that you could be able to be so resistant and do all of this?
I don't know if I would be sharp without that, because those experiences, they make you live on your toes. You live on your feet all the time. You are in survival mode all the time, and it's only now where you are unlearning that and you're getting into other spaces. For example, now we understand that we're not the same. We don't have the same abilities. We don't have the ilozalfan. For example, you now picking up certain sensations in your body and you being able to embody them physically. That's something that I can't do.
Really?
Which makes it so much easier to detach, because you're understanding that they will put the messages that are supposed to come out. My only job is to mediate and interpret that communication. The communication you'll figure out and it's gonna sit where it's supposed to sit. Even if it sits 5 years later or 6 years later, that's fine. But the communication went in, because the intensity of I am absorbing you and I'm absorbing your life force.
It's crazy.
And and I think the conversation that we had even prior all of this is so important for me, because it's helped me to understand the importance of going through the process and so you can actually understand this and you can work with it. I don't know what I would be like if I had gone through the process. Maybe things would be different, maybe things would be not, I don't know. But if I had not had those tough experiences, I would be so easily intimidated that if another healer who's doing something different to me would sit next to me, I would feel like because it doesn't look like, you know.
That's so crazy. So I want to talk more to how you do your work, because so for me, because I work in digital, right? Online is like the phenomena for me, right? Online has created a completely different world for me just as a human being, let alone me as a healer, you know. And I've lived a lot of my life trying to merge my healing work with all of the experiences that I sort of gained through my corporate world. Now, here is this girl I hear about on this podcast named Bruja, and she sends you these audio files. And you don't have to speak to her. You don't have to interact with her in order for her to give messages about you. And I'm still dumbfounded by that. So, Wuti, how do you tap into the energy? How do you do this thing where you can give all these people, all of us, these messages about ourselves, but all we've sent you is our name? You don't have to talk to us. Tell me about this.
It would be so dishonest for me to take the credit, because the honest truth is that when we are channeling, you know, you understand that you're channeling as a person, and which is why you will usually want the paternal or the maternal.
Yes.
I don't do that anymore. Whichever surname they give me, I just mean I'm trusting of abantu bami to say, okay, Tina, we'll connect for you. When I mediate, because you have the voice, you have the mouth, you have the brain. Sizobeka phansi everything that we want you to highlight. If you're unsure of something, don't worry. We will plant something in the other person's mind, because whatever question this person is going to ask is going to lead you where which is why with the call sessions, the person will come in and will say, oh my goodness, I had a list of questions, you've answered all of them. Okay, let me think of areas that I want us to unpack. And that's when you then know that this is not me. I'm a vessel.
Yes.
And it would be dishonest of me to then take the credit and say, yes, we are the bomb.com.
Yeah.
We do
No,
this.
obviously I'm asking because I've been a healer for many years now. And I no. I'm sort of acknowledging the fact that until I had met you and you being able to send people these audio files, I had never heard of that, you know. And initially I was like, I'm gonna book this thing because I want to see Gucci what's gonna happen, because I can't believe that this girl can actually do this, you know. But what became even more interesting to me was Gucci. No, man. That means that we obviously have been able to do these digital consultations.
All along.
We've been able to do calls, but it means that after us, there's a completely new age and era that's coming. And I've been all my life this new age sangoma, but wait, there are newer ones that know how to tap into people. They send these people files in digital formats, and they don't ever have to have interactions with those people, right? And I think for me, because I'm such a global thinker, it meant to me that, oh my gosh, then anyone from anywhere in the world can tap into this person, and they will work in jail, and their world is becoming smaller and smaller. And that's really how I thought about it. This is fascinating, you know.
Sorry to cut you, Coco. There's just something that went through my mind. I was about to say that I don't know why, as people, we only accept the reverse of that.
Yes.
Ngoba umuntu makakuthakatha, they don't sit next to you.
Yes.
Akuthakathe like this.
Yes.
You have to be there. Umuntu kuthakatha, sitting wherever they are, whatever they are doing, and they are still tapping into umoya wakho and bayamosha. Now the reverse of that is also true, because a person can literally they can calibrate and align izinto, and this is what I believe Reiki is, right? When you're working with life force and you're working with Kundalini, you're working with that, you're just calibrating everything. And so that's why I don't have a problem with Bruja, because there are people that are like, oh, but do you understand Bruja is a witch, Bruja is a this. The same way umuntu azokutharatha ngayo is the same way a person can also heal you.
Yes.
So until we can bring those things together, we're not really progressing.
Yes.
Yes, a person can be negative about it, ahambe ayoyenza whatever things they do, but that means that there is the opposite ability to do that. So for me, it was an opportunity to just open it up. Because umuntu akuthakathayo, they don't sit here next to you and they say, I want to know yini into ongayifuni so that I can send it to you in enlightening. They're far.
I know this is gonna sound like I'm asking the same question, but like, how did you even know you could do that, like, and just package these things and send them to people online? Was it something that you just thought about, or was it like a message? I am really dumbfounded.
Okay, so there was a woman who Isangoma. I went to eThekwini. She helped me a lot with this intozami. But she was a person who was very hurt by Jeniake. She had so many scars. She was very anti traditional ways of ukulapha umoya. So she considered herself a psychic. She would connect, and you would see that Thembi umuntu ngoba phela abantu abadala would show up through her. And I knew umkhulu wami, so when he shows up and he's talking the way he used to talk and his demeanor is the way it was, that's when I fell apart. I cried. I was like, this is it. This is all I needed. I know all the people that you connected with, and I hear what you're saying, and all of it is just it's accurate. Now what helped me was that, you know, if you're going to KZN, guys, the Zulu is so hardcore that I was worried that there are going to be certain things I'm going to lose because I'm not that deep into, and you can't stop umelapi and say you know. So I literally had my phone recording there. I was in the session. I had the whole thing. It was an hour long. Came out. I had the recording. Years later, I would play that back and play that back, and things would become clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. And the one thing that I kept praying for, is, please allow me to give that type of convenience to umuntu. Because you understand, I was broke, I wasn't working, but I had to travel all the way to KZN. And so it's like deep in the homeland. And it was such a mission to go there, such a mission to come back. And I was like, please provide me with a way to give some type of convenience. And this feeling that I get every time I play this thing, I still want to cry. It still invokes certain things in me. I could relive that moment.
Wow.
And I think after a while they decided, okay, there are tarot readers out there that do these files and whatnot.
Wow.
And it came in. It didn't come in as a vision. It came in as a convenience even to me, because I was getting so many sessions that I couldn't squeeze everything in the week. And I was like, okay, just send me stuff and let me record you something, because I can deal with that. I can't be in my room from
the
6
whole
to
day.
6. I can't do that, so send me stuff and I'll send you a file. And that's how it actually took off.
Sure.
I only realized afterwards, Gogo, which they responded to me, because this is what I was praying about. I was like, please allow me.
Because I'm just like, oh my gosh. And for me, I was like, then you don't have to see people all the time. Because sometimes you don't feel like seeing physical people. So I think one thing about me, I was explaining to you earlier, is I'm very strict, right? So, for example, I'll have a session with someone at 10 o'clock. If you come 10:15, he doesn't want to do the session anymore. But it's not because of anything else besides the fact that he had the message already, clear and packaged for you. He knew exactly what he wants to say. So, uber irritated, And I've had many times where I've just had to turn people away, and someone else doesn't understand, but that's just really who he is on certain days. So for me, that would cut so much out, Unfortunately, though, now as I grow, it's like I'm having a bit of I want to be more around people. I want to, like today I hugged you at some point, and personal touch was not a thing for me. Yeah. So I have struggled for years and years with people touching me, But now as I grow more in the work, it's like I find myself having to embrace people more and more in my space. And sometimes that's because that's all someone needs that day. Like it's a hug. So I think that's what, now I'm starting to realize, it's okay, I do want to see people, because sometimes someone needs a hug and stuff like that. But I think the one other thing that you are explaining here, which I think is interesting that people never talk about, is the significance of other healers. Oguguti dala bayhamba indlela, right? And even though they did not bayhambe like you, just the enabling part and being able to say to you, Guti, this is a direction. I'm not going to point which direction you need to go, but you need to take this on. How important has that been for you as a healer?
Yo. I think that's one of the crippling things. But before I just want to put something out. I had something in mind as you were talking, and I wanted to say the pros and cons of connecting emkhathini, which is what I believe the whole audio thing is, because you're connecting with someone in spirit, and which can create a disconnect, because it feels so good. Yes, there's a pro to the fact that because I can't see you, I can't size you up, I can't look at you, and I can't, because sometimes those things happen where we look at a person, we judge them, and then the way we interact with them changes. So it's lovely that I'm not seeing you, I'm only dealing with your spirit. But the other side of that is you lack in connection. The sessions you have with someone, like someone sitting on the other side, are so rich, and they are so full, and there's meat around them. And when it comes to older healers, I can understand why they would feel some type of way for someone to come in and think they can rewrite the rules, and someone coming in thinking they can be free enough to not be bounded by the same things. But I think the difficult conversations that we need to have as abantu abamnyama, more especially is to understand that not all your guides will be bakhona guides that are, I knew, hey, this was the craziest inkolo that I've ever had, the craziest. I went to consult this one time before I met the psychic lady who helped me. So Sahamba saya ugogo, she just, I come in, sit, bega makhandlela, she wants isibongo sakho, you give it to her, and then she's like, yazi mntwanam, you need to go, hamba uye mandiyeni, ngibona mandiya la, I don't know what's going on, hamba go find lama palm reader, go find those people because lento ela angiyazi, ngibona mandiya, I don't know what's going on. So now, as a young person, you're thinking, were there Indians in my bloodline?
Yes.
Did my mother mess around?
Yes.
Did somebody mess around? You're just thinking all these things that how could I be linked to? And it was only much later that you then understood that you will have your blood ancestors, and then you will have other layers of, meaning even if they were these colonial or these white people that have either wronged your family somewhere along the line, they have to come in and pay that karma back. Now, because you have white or foreign ancestry, umuntu is going to say, no, that's not it, because it's not black. But are they any less of your guides because they don't fit the mold?
They're not. Jeez. So I love this aspect, right? Because for me, this aspect is really important. I talk about this all the time, that my sister went to initiation school recently, came back, and her name is Guru, so in full, her name is Guru Barbara. And obviously, my sister's grown up, she looks a bit like Indian people, but you would never have thought Guti.
Is she the one?
Yes.
Oh, yes, she's correct. She looks like
Uguti, so then exotic. Those guides would come up, it was like a very strange thing for us as a family, because we have this deep belief, you're so Zulu or you're so Sutu. We know that historically maybe Gunabelung in the family and stuff, but the Indian part, dumbfounding, guys, like till today I get stressed out because I'm just like, my sister, and I think even in my previous episode I spoke about it to say she literally put a completely different lens for me, but I think also what is coming out here is how language can be such a barrier for the healers that help us, because maybe she actually was onto something in that your name is Bruja. Suddenly also you are using an alternative method, but the closest thing to difference that she could put it to is Amandia, because it was something that seemed closer to them than anything else, and she was spot on with the work that you would do, but because of how she was expressing it, it was confusing even to her, or how it was coming up, because when I'm listening, I'm like, okay, in a way, spot on, yazi ukokoloya, but it's only manifesting manje.
I was so confused at the time. I even had some anger. I'm like, oh, maybe that's why I'm so weird. Maybe that's why this Zulusami, it doesn't, like, I will speak and you will, because, oh yes, primary school. Yes, in primary school, I was called Ikwere Mina.
Really?
People were like, you're what's the word? Foreign national, whatnot, because I didn't understand at the time. But it was only after she had told me that I was like, I'm mad, because now it means that there are some Indians in my bloodline that I don't know about, and they are the ones that are making me seem like I'm a foreigner. Because it wasn't that Nekisabui I would speak, it wasn't that Benga Kulumi, and it wasn't that I had a weird surname. People just unanimously decided that you're not one of us.
Sure, that is so crazy. So, I mean, I've had similar experiences, but for me, it was just clear. For me, everybody just called me Gogo, and it never made sense. So, we hear Sise Primary, and I always joke about this. Abangan Bamje, that was my clear nickname from the onset, Little did we know, Uguti, it would come to fruition, but my friends were the first people to honor me and say, Gutu wenu Gogoen. Glad. At the time, I think we were in grade 5 or 6, and for me it was confusing, but I was never upset at that, I think in hindsight now, I'm always like, geez, so these people knew, or the universe knew, and they've always used my friends as a way to sort of seed the idea of this is who you are, this is your future. And I thought, now that I look back, it was actually the nicest way for me to get used to being called this old lady. because really by the time I became ugogo ngasengijwayele, you know. There's another friend of mine, even when we talk, I'm like, hey gogo this, gogo that, gogo this. And even with her, it's coming now with, hey, maybe nae, you know, she's like me. And so the way that we would communicate with each other was more because of that, you know. I think I want to talk about, I saw this video of yours that you did on Instagram a few weeks ago, just ranting and complaining about you know, people discrediting other people. And I wanted us to discuss this because when I saw yours, I was so grateful. I was so grateful because I think a few months ago I was battling with that, you know, and never as myself as a healer, but I think I always talk about how being a gobela for me has just been the hardest thing, you know, where you take people ubalete into your space and you really are trying to mold them, but actually you realize, you know, these people want to be you, you know. They don't want to be like you. They don't want to learn from you. They want to be you. And because they can't be you, they start to sort of like dig holes into who you are and into your work. And I wanted to know, like, for you, how have you sort of dealt with the criticism? Because we are gonna come at you. We are gonna say, hey, why do you think you know our, you know? I think I've seen even people online sometimes saying things like, I was no sure about this person. And I'm not saying they've directed that at you, but I've seen it directed at other healers who maybe aren't going at it the way that we've been taught, you know?
Coco Mina, I'll be honest, I found peace in saying it is not me that you insult, Labantu that are telling you, because that has given me peace. That rant for me was, I felt like for the first time in my life, let me just defend myself.
Yes.
Let me defend myself, because if you look at the trail of bullying, you see it there from primary school.
Yes.
From there all the way up. And for the first time I was like, you know what? I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. And what I think is that you are intimidated, you are threatened, and ninkinga. And ninkinga yako has nothing to do with me. But here we are. So I felt like I wanted to say those things because I had had such unpleasant experiences with a healer who I trusted,
yes.
a healer who I loved, a healer who I looked at as a mother, you know, and this is a person who along the way decided, I'm just going to discredit. Because honestly, you never know a person's path.
Yes.
I could be sitting here with you today doing the work, and then a year later they decide we are getting paid. You don't know what is the reason that they decided to do things.
Yes.
Maybe for the work they'll be doing.
That's true.
Here we are sitting here, we've already established the difference. You are sensing and you're feeling, you're stepping into. And if I haven't been given that, what would be the point of learning how to work with that? It's just clairvoyance. There's no clairgustance, there's no clairsentience. So now they want to train you in their own way, and that's a problem. So I've just given myself peace by saying, it's fine. Insult me all you want, but it's not me you're insulting.
Sure, that is like so crazy. It's so crazy. So I think for me, you know, I suffer with, you know, the two, because like when we were talking earlier, I was explaining to you that I'm a very like process driven person, and so I love the idea of Uktasa because I think it clears like a whole lot of the lines, you know. But I'm also someone who feels like, oh well, my journey has not been the straight line that I thought it would be. So I'm a little bit fascinated with anybody who chooses to do things differently, you know, because I think if we're being honest, sometimes it's just because we were never taught that we could, you know. And this is part of why I have these conversations on the podcast to say, well, what if you could do it some different way, you know? And what if this is like conversations that we need to have in order for someone else to know that there is an alternative way. And it's not because I'm like trying to take away anything from, you know, the journey and the process of Uktasa, you know, but I'm just trying to say, what if these worlds meet somewhere and we could do like some really amazing work irrespective of how we've done this whole thing, you know. I think what I want to know as well is, so I see that you also do a lot of like herbal products and stuff like that. And I want to know what influenced this decision. Like, did it also just come to you, or were you experimenting? Were you doing like a Bruja's brew?
Okay, so the whole thing started off with root work. So I don't know from which side it came from, but there were times where I was receiving communication to go I didn't even know what
Yes.
was. I'm just seeing cones in my dreams. These cones are like roots. I don't know it's a
Yes.
root for what in it. And I would just say, Thembi, please guide me in the right direction, because honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. So fine. They were like, okay, there are certain roots that we want you usebenze ngazo. And now I'm already out of my depth, because I'm thinking, if people are already offended that you're even using uthokoza gogo and uthasanga, imagine how much more you are even integrating herbs into that.
Yes.
So it was a scary thing for me, to be honest with you. So and then I started doing my research on that particular cone, and then you find out that, oh, it's a neurotrophin, it works with the mind. And my whole thing in Guloyami was a mental illness.
Yes.
Right? So I understood that if I'm going to work with neurons and nerve endings and all of these things in the brain, I need to be able to work with it. So I basically took the roots for a long time, not knowing what it is that I was supposed to do with it. I would grind it, I would make tea with it, I would do whatever. But their plan was that this is what we would like you to create products with.
Beautiful.
And that's how it came about. And I guess I only call it root work because of the respect that I have for practitioners that have gone through the process. I do not want to belittle, and I do not want to simplify, because the people who fight are people that feel like you guys are dragging our hard work down.
I don't even think so. Like, so I do similar work to you, right? But how I understood it is that, so mina gabo mamam, there are two sides, right? And my grandmother, I spoke to you about this earlier, my grandmother's a herbalist, you know, so a lot of the stuff that I put in my soaps are stuff that are in my grandmother's garden. You know, it's not stuff that like I woke up one morning, no, it's literally the stuff that when I'm sitting with my grandmother will say, for example, elo, it actually does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fentrate, it does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, umntwana uhlushwa yisifuba. Faka ama peppermint dripples, you know. And over time, when I created a collection of these items, I was like, no man, iskwama lesi. You know, yes, it's a different kind of iskwama, but lesi iskwama.
I love this. I love it. Because you can start seeing now the difference between us and abanye, like people from other nations. Because iskwama in the esoteric spaces is your grimoire. This is your book of spells.
So as soon as I understood that, then for me, that's how I decided, because I'm going to do something more with this, because this is now an expression of my father's guides and my father's side, which I've been lacking as a person. You know, I had faced so much rejection from that side of the family with my healing gift that I had nothing else to incorporate into my work and say, you know, this is what I can show for Isait Lagabo Babam until I had this, you know. And I think in the beginning, I still send my grandmother the stuff and whatever. And, you know, it's not easy to explain to Kokwako Guti, I'm gifting you what I believe you've gifted me. Do you get me? So if I sit down now and I look back, I'm like, Yazin Ukokwami in the physical sense might not have given me anything. But in us, it's Kwama Sakona. I can see it, it's functioning. And yes, it's functioning completely differently to my mother's side. You know, it's functioning in the online space. All of that, I guess, is also something that just came to me. Good to know, you need to put this stuff online. It needs to move in its own pathway. Ungayihlanganisi with this stuff, you know. But it became so clear then to me, Guti, umuntu nomuntu uza ney'khwama zakhe, you know. And for me that was like fascinating, Guti. In healing, there are other healing methodologies, and you can still package and use them differently within your path, as long as the core, the root is the same, you know. So when I've started interacting with you, I'm like, oh, okay, she gets it, you know. She gets that there are different kinds of people working through her, and slowly maybe she doesn't see it, but there's that satisfaction of, okay, lo bekasebenza ngemithi, let me satisfy that. Lo bekayenza lokhu, let me satisfy that. And I think for me that is, because you speak a lot about alchemy, that is the point at which I think if you even read my boxes, there's a quote about alchemy there, you know. That is the point at which you start to sort of realize, oh my gosh, this thing is turning into something so beautiful, and it's something that's so healing, but at the beginning I saw it as something completely different, you know. So I've loved that about you. Like, I'm really watching your journey closely in a good way, because I feel like I like to see when other people do different things and those things work for them, you know. And even giving that credit to other healers to say, Guti, I really like that you do this thing so differently to me. What is it that I can learn from you and your process to make myself better? Because I'm always in the mindset of learning, you know. I was going to ask what's the next chapter of Bruja and stuff, but I think what I should be asking is more around, like, where do people get into contact with Bruja if they need her help? Give us like a little bit of structure in terms of people contact me. I will obviously put your details up and stuff, but they contact me here. This is how long it takes for me maybe to respond to them, but what can they expect?
Gogo, I appreciate the time that you've made for us today. And I just want to say it's such a big thing for me that even in your line of work you've considered soap, because for some reason soap has a terrible rep, guys. Soap has a terrible rep because it's like all of us are doing it, but the truth of the matter is that each one has a different, we all have different things to bring or to come with. For me, as much as there are people that don't really respect Iwash or as much as Unity, the thing for me is the only reason that I went into it full force is because Lento Kulumayo, now it's only making sense because you actually mentioned it, that integrating other people, other parts, because there was Umkulu who was umuntu waseZTC. Yeah, now he wanted to work with Indayelo, just a manzi. And I was like, what am I going to do Manzi digitally? And then the whole soap thing for me was, if there is a charged crystal, whether that is a salt crystal or a soap crystal, ingene emanzini, iyosebenza namanzi.
Yes.
So that is still working with water spirits in
but also ZCC is big on salt. So the whole salt thing that you're doing, I can pick that energy up off of ZCC very quickly, because my son, their family goes to that church, and one of the things I always have loved is their salt, which probably means that's why I love your salt.
Because he was just like, we are ready to work. What's it give me? Mfuna umlotha, mfuna manzi. And I was like, you do understand times are different, and what are you expecting me to do? That's difficult to sell. Like, you're not about to buy ash from Harry Smith and it's gonna be sent in Aramex. But an ash soap, that's different.
Yes,
you
it
see.
is.
So go. And then the contact, people can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I'm very active there. And I have a WhatsApp that I work from. And this WhatsApp, people, I'm sorry, people are gonna have to bear with me, because more seven that we wani and you're trying to do a lot of things. Sometimes certain things just take a back, like things just get left behind, and that's why in the later on in the year I actually want to get help. Someone who can just assist me with just the communication aspect of something, because the way I've been doing it all along is here are all the work that needs to be done, here are all the files, here are all the sessions, I've booked them and everything. I want to finish this before mvula my message. The other person on the other side, like you said, they don't know what's happening. At least to let them know I acknowledge, and then I'm processing. So I'm going to be getting help with that. And then the e-wash, the salts and the soaps, we are restructuring them a little bit, just making a few changes to improve that, and then when it's ready it will go. So I will give you my WhatsApp number so that you can actually give it to them if they want to, because I think that's the quickest. I tried the email thing. It's hard.
It is.
A person will sit in my emails for 2 months and I'll feel so bad. I'll be like, oh,
yeah. It's hard. So my biggest battle was communication, which is why I gave it over to my sister holistically, because I was like, she can either just be honest with people and just say, but then because of the whole thing of like a backlog, I also then decided maybe I'll take people in batches per week. And then if I'm not saying I'm available, then I'm not taking anyone, because I don't want you to wait for me
a long time.
You know, I do also offer the thing of like, I'll send you to alternative healers or whatever if you can't wait for me. But it's really because obviously I've started building that network with the healers I've trained as well, to say, I mean, if I'm training you, I must trust that you are good enough, right? So I should be able to, as your parent, give you the work as well and see ukuthi unama challenges guphi, then ngikuncedise. But I can't make people wait. Also, because as a person, I'm very, like I said, structured. So things like time, waiting, quite not on my side. But okay, I'm excited that there's restructuring happening. And you know, I'm very happy because I always feel like when I have these conversations with people, I learn something different, you know. One of the things that I noticed actually in your session is that you did not mention abogogo bakho kakhulu, nabomkhulu bakho kakhulu, and it's something that I always joke to people about. I don't know my guides, you know. I see things and how they're gonna happen on earth, for example, in terms of dreams and visions, but angmazi kokwami, angmazi mkhulu wami ngamthwasa. So sometimes, like, if you send me an audio, then she'll be like, oh, kokwakho lo wasehlathini ohamba nebhubhe. So I'm like, why can't I see them? You know? And so I wanted to know, what has that relationship been for you? Do you have them coming as physical entities to you? Or are you like me, you have to put the pieces of the puzzle together, you know? And why I'm asking this is because, you know, there's a certain way that we've all been taught to see the journey must come, you know. I've been waiting for that way and it's never come for me, you know. And sometimes I feel like the more I ask these questions with other healers, the more it becomes exposed to me, Guti, that is never gonna come. You know, so it's not all of us who are gonna have have this conversation with us and tell us what to do. And I wanna understand that from your perspective.
Yes. So, initially there is the gift giver. It was a challenging thing for me because it came from my mother's side of things. And remember, I didn't have a relationship with my mother. I didn't have a relationship with the maternal side. So all the time you go in your solar, you are hearing things you don't know. You are hearing on people you don't know. Stress. The breakthrough for me was after umkhulu wami passed, and he started showing up, and he started introducing that this is so and so, this is so and so, and this is a person who would constantly show up in Mapupeni, but she wouldn't show up as herself because I wouldn't recognize her. I wouldn't know her. She would show up as Ukokwa Mapilayo. And it was, I didn't know at the time what was going on, because I'm interpreting it as, hey, this is about you. This is communication about you because I saw you. And I saw this is that, this and that and that and that. And she also never understood until before she passed. And she said, no, your ukokwakholo on your mother's side, when she shows up, she definitely shows up as me, because you will never be able to identify her if she were to show up as herself. You don't have that reference in your mind. You are going to ignore her, and you're so not going to be able to connect. And then I started seeing it in other family members as well, because I have an aunt who was named after our family Yarelan, right? So the person that you are named, she was named after another healer within the bloodline, within the family. And whenever she comes across, she will come as that aunt because that aunt is carrying her name. Now, I can easily say, oh, and it's because she was showing such negative things in the beginning. It's so easy to think, oh, labantu bayathagatha, labantu benzani, because they are showing, they're trying to warn us, like we spoke about earlier, of things that might transpire. It only took a while for me to understand that it actually had nothing to do with her. It was Ukoko communicating through her, because that's who I would know. I would not know her. So, and the other reason why it was confusing for me is because for some reason I used to believe that if 3 have shown up and these are the main ones, they are the only ones.
Yes.
And then when other ones start showing up, and then you get confused. And they sometimes they don't even show up in my pupeni. They will show up through, because I don't get visions like this.
Yes.
They will show up in the mind. I have a very weird brain.
Yes.
They will just pop in, and I will just have a type of a sensation of what's happening, and I have to piece the pieces together. And that's also another reason why in a lot of the sessions there will be a minimum of 3 or 4 that come up. And the one thing that I am still struggling with differentiating, the one thing they haven't taught me yet, is how to I usually connect with just the blood ancestors, but laba banye bayavela, and they show up as blood ancestors, but they're not actually blood ancestors, especially the foreign energies or the guides from other realms or other spaces. So that's something that we're learning. That's something that we're still building on, and it's exciting.
It is, and it's different, and it's beautiful because, I mean, for people like me, it makes it real for you to know, oh, she's pointing out at a certain, for example, Lozi. This Lozi was doing A, B, C, D, and E, and therefore, when Nipasha, I've started to actually acknowledge those people, maybe Nina Amakosa Sehlatini, Amakosa Gupi, because Inzunza, I mean, that's how you won me over, right? The moment that you mentioned Inzunza, I was like, she can't be fake. Because for me, going into initiation, that was the one story that had been told for generations in my family. Tina, snokoko, ukoko ga kokwam, ukoko ga kokowam, uwahamba namanzi. And that was the real reason Ukoko was rejecting this whole thing. It was more around Pela Tina Sanyamalala, sihamba namanzi. Manje, even moving from KZN coming to Joburg was more Ukoko trying to say, I can't lose my children to the water, you know, because Tina, we'd had family members who would go to the beach, Batato Ushak, you know, and so Ukoko knew Guti, this thing, well, she's my great grandmother, but I call her Koko. There's just this thing of us and water or whatever, and that's why the other day I was telling you, Guti, I went to Gyopahle Manzini and I found a snake there, and someone else would be screaming, which I did. But after a while, something said, calm down, ngaguge Manzini. And I just said to them, thank you so much that you guys are here. Ngalahleli mali. And I went on with my day like it was normal. But it was like when you said Inzuns, I was like, how many people will know this about me? No. They're not going to know this about me. She's the only one that knows. And it was such a good affirmation because it's the one story that over the years my great-grandmother would tell. Ukuthi nje, ay, thina sihamba nenzunza kusona sona so mina nje. That was like, angifuni nje abantwana bami. Even dreadlocks for us growing up were not allowed in Lee. Because ugogo nje, everything she would associate it to this thing, yobunyanga. But I don't think the issue was the healing. I think the issue was that these people disappear for years and years, and just when we're convinced that they dead, they reappear. You know? But I think that's a different story for a...
And Webana, that's also another reason why even in the beginning of your path, they wanted to do things themselves, because Labo Bantu, they don't want you going nowhere. They're just like, we'll do our things our own self, and then after a while when you're ready, then you go through processes. And I think I've struggled so much with that, because there'll be one who says this, and then another one will say that, and then another one will say that. But with time, I'm happy because it is people like you that give me faith, or that give me hope, that, you know, kusakhanya la ngaphandle kusakhanya, and it's not just, bumnyama.
No, it's not dark, guys. It's not dark at all. So, you know what I want now, Coco? I want you to give me parting words for someone who struggled or is struggling with their journey, just to propel them forward.
Okay. Trust yourself, because Thembi when you also trust them, right? Because it's very difficult to honor them without honoring yourself, and you can't give anyone anything that you don't have. So trust yourself, because I can't tell you how many times that I would ask myself that if I didn't trust that lento corner and I went with my crazy head and did lento that everyone else thought was dark and satanic and whatever, if I didn't continue, where would I be? I would be unhappy. I probably wouldn't even be alive. I probably wouldn't even be alive, because it's just this thing. And it's so funny that you must speak about before I took on this work, or before I started doing it like seriously, I was having a series of dreams about Ulwandle, like swallowing me, like taking me. And there was this strong urge to just go, like to a point where as a person you're even suicidal and you're thinking, I don't want this. Again, leave me. I don't want this. It's kulume face to face, because that's happening is in Tateni if you take me. And I was so ready to do that. And that's the huge transitioning point. And maybe that's also another reason why I feel like, yes, we connect strongly more with the water people than any others. There are people that will come in and you're struggling to connect, because and Coco, I'm saying a lot, but those are my parting words. That trust yourself.
Thank you so much. I think definitely this conversation is gonna hit at a lot of different parts in people. Like, I think just spending the day with you today, I've learned so much, and like, I'm so grateful. Like, thank you to you, thank you to your guides also for giving us the space and sharing with us, because I always believe yonke into yenziwa amathonga ethu abogogo nabomkhulu. Like, I would not have these conversations with you guys if it was not for them. So I'm so grateful. Thokoza Gogo, thank you so much.